on stamps, the Project Mercury mission. I was born in 1955, and growing up in the 1960s, I got in to live through the glory days of the United States space program. I particularly remember Project Mercury. From my own lifetime, the Project Mercury stamp is one of the Postal Service's most important issues. It is not rare, it is not expensive or valuable, but it is a good stamp to build a topical collection of space exploration around. On February 20th, 1962, an Atlas rocket carried Senator John Glenn and the hopes of our entire nation into orbit aboard Friendship 7, a flight that ushered in a new era of space travel, an unparalleled era of great achievement, which led in less than a decade to man actually landing on the moon. I remember well the day that John Glenn made his historic flight. I would have been 7 years old. I was home from school that day, and my mother, Lorraine, and I watched the black and white fuzzy image on the TV set as the Atlas rocket stood proudly waiting to lift off. It seems as though the local NBC affiliate, WNEM, now CBS, carried special updates all day long. They had a large map of the Earth, a long map, and a wavy line that showed the path that astronaut Glenn was taking, with the commentator pointing out on the map where Glenn and the space capsule were at any given moment. As already stated, it was on February 20th, 1962, and astronaut John Glenn, Jr. became the first American to orbit the Earth. NASA's official website has the following brief synopsis. Launched from Cape Canaveral, Launch Complex 14, Glenn's Mercury Atlas 6 Friendship 7 spacecraft completed a successful 3-orbit mission around the Earth, reaching a maximum altitude, or apogee, of approximately 162 statute miles, and on an orbital velocity of 17,500 miles per hour. Glenn's Friendship 7 Mercury spacecraft landed about 800 miles southeast of Cape Canaveral in the vicinity of the Grand Turk Islands. The mission duration from launch to impact was only 4 hours and 55 minutes and 23 seconds. I cannot remember if the splashdown was carried on a live feed, but I do remember seeing it bouncing in the ocean waves as it was picked up. Up to that point, this was perhaps the single most important event to take place in my life. I remember Dad and Mom commenting on how much the world had changed since Charles Lindbergh made his historic flight only 40-odd years before. Let me tell you a little about the stamp, though, that was issued to commemorate this historic event. The Post Office Department honored this first orbital flight of the United States astronaut on February 20th, 1962, when it released the Project Mercury commemorative stamp, which, by the way, is my favorite U.S. postage stamp. It was placed on sale across the country at the exact hour Colonel John Glenn's flight officially ended with his safe return to Earth. This unique stamp has a somewhat unusual story behind it. It was one of the first issues published on the then new Giore press. It employed a series of specially cut rubber rollers that applied 2 or 3 colored inks on the same printing plate. As the new press was being used to print the Project Mercury stamp before the mission took place, and in case of the mission failed or was canceled, the Bureau of Engraving and Printing kept word about the new press and the stamp issue's production a top secret. To further assure that the project be kept secret, the designer of this issue, Charles R. Chickering, worked from his home and simply claimed that he was away on vacation while he was working on the postage stamp. The stamps waiting at post offices around the nation were sealed and marked top secret. Only after Glenn's trip were the postmasters allowed to open the packages and see what was inside. The stamp became the first U.S. commemorative stamp issued at nearly the same time as the event occurred. Was released the exact hour, actually, that the flight was officially completed. The stamp features an image of the Mercury Friendship 7 capsule circling the Earth against a field of stars. This stamp was so wildly popular that at 289 million stamps, the issue was made more than twice the average amount of quantities issued for any commemorative postage stamp at that time. I wish I could put down here my mind's recollection of that historic event. I've told you what I can remember. What an awesome piece of history to have been alive at that time and be able to witness it. It's something, I guess my main image of it is the announcer, commentator, and seeing the space capsule bobbing up and down in the ocean, and then finally Colonel John Glenn coming out of that capsule. Of course, other events happened later to dwarf this story, for the 1960s was a time of change on so many fronts, and it was on that date in 1962 that the manned exploration of our solar system began.